Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. It's election time, and we have the two candidates in Wycomico County for the Wycomico County Council, District 2. And first off, we have Alex Scott. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you, Greg. It's good to see you again.
So you're a Democrat running in District 2.
I am. Crazy.
You ran last time against Mark Kilmer.
I did.
And you're back again.
I am. So this is for a special election. When I ran 2 years ago, it was to get my foot in the door, learn the process. I was real new to it, but it was fun. It was exciting. I learned a ton. And running against Mark was difficult because he and I saw eye to eye on a lot.
Yeah. We
actually became pretty good friends after that. And a lot of the people that worked on his campaign have reached out to me on this one and have told me, reminded me that Mark always said if we weren't running against each other, he would have voted for me.
Right.
So it's been really reassuring this go around to hear. So, yeah.
So District 2 is the western part of the county. It's the biggest district in terms of land mass. So you've got all the western communities out there, Sharptown and Hebron, that kind of stuff, all the way down to Whitehaven and Nanticoke. And then you go across the river a little bit and get some of the houses just south of Salisbury.
Right.
So what makes the district unique to you?
Well, coming from Wycomico or being born here, I've always loved this side of the county because, we've got most of the water. All of your waterfront, a lot of your crabbers, they're all going to be, in this area. That and I've always loved Roaring Point, so I love that that's part of it. And then you get into the farms, the amount of time I spent, with my dad in Sharptown or Mardella, just going out to a lot of the fields and stuff out there. It just holds a certain place for me. So I love it geographically, and the people. These are people I grew up with. So it's great to kind of get out there and I've been telling them I'll take a turn at county government to try to help out. So that's why I've loved it, and I'm giving this a shot. Yeah.
Now you're a downtown business owner,
I am.
So you're very involved in that. Last time when you ran, you had some concerns about how the alcohol rules are applied throughout the county. There's been some stuff to perhaps remedy that to a degree.
Sure.
But as a county council member, what I see happening a lot is the tensions in the format of the county government, with the county executive form of government, council members trying to define their roles. So what do you see the role of a county council person being?
The county council is supposed to represent the people, in your district. You got your 2 at-large and then the 5 districts. We're supposed to work together. You're supposed to, especially get past a lot of the partisan politics that's been weighing us down, and it's not what we've been seeing. We need to make sure things like schools. I'm a product of Wycomico County school system, and to see what's been happening, to hear all the people that I grew up with around here who've become educators, they're really disappointed in what's become of our school system, and I really want to try to help that. Especially, I was one of the last classes that went through Bennett Middle, and if anybody that went through Bennett Middle, I think they remember that hot school.
We had the chicken fans. That should have made everything just fine.
Those were interesting. Yeah, but and so I really feel for Mardella, and I've got a lot of friends that are going there or teach there now, and we need to make sure that we're not just putting this on paper and then we push it through, because every year these kids are coming into our system as citizens of Wycomico, and I want to make sure that they're prepared to be good and active members of the society here. So I think that's my biggest focus this year for sure.
One of the tensions has been with the county executive, like who's kind of in charge. And I actually had John Cannon on recently. And I said, well, the way I sort of see it is the county executive is driving the car and the council's in the front seat, and maybe they've got one hand on the wheel with him or they're reading the map. And he disagreed. He said, no, it's the other way around. The county council is driving the car and the county executive is kind of advising the county council. How do you see that playing out?
Well, whenever you decide, which, it's funny, John Cannon, he was around when we decided as a community to have a county executive, and that's because you need a strong leader. So I like actually your analogy that he's driving. And times like this, with COVID happening, we need a strong leader, somebody that can advocate for us on our behalf. And you need somebody that's willing to work with the county council because, you work as a single unit, just as like national politics should work, even though we fail to see that sometimes too.
Right.
So I think it's a single unit, that needs to, work together.
You mentioned education and teachers. That's obviously a big issue with you.
It is.
What are your other issues that you want to focus on if you get on the council?
So I've got a couple. Education has always been one. I go on and on about it. I already did. The other ones that I really want to touch on, broadband. A lot of my constituents out in the district, struggle. And especially with education being what it is right now, a lot of online classes, we need to make sure that there's the connectivity out there for these kids to access. The environment too, I know that can be a topic for some, but as somebody that lives on a tiny piece of tidal water, I've seen how tides are coming, the dam that's been on everyone's mind. These are things that we need to prepare for. And, I was a Boy Scout, so it's always better to be prepared. So I think that it's things like that or things like the DAF tank that we really need to address. So there's a lot of unhappy people near that and the process that happened there.
Right, this is the tank out in Hebron.
It is.
That's got a lot of truck traffic. There's some refuse in there. It's one of those things. It was intended to maybe be environmentally helpful and friendly as opposed to getting rid of the stuff some other way, but it's caused some disruption in the community.
It has. Well, the roads just, they weren't built for that. So I don't know if that was an issue they just didn't foresee, but the way they rushed that through and the planning and zoning phase was just 2 days, I think they pushed it through. Somebody needs to look into that. And then the tank being that close to residential, I'm close with some farmers and they've actually used that product up until their neighbors complained and said, listen, I grew up around here. I'm fine with the smell of chicken manure. But what that is just, unlivable.
Right.
So the farmers that I know that did try, they stopped using it a couple of years ago. And there is still some, and it's still coming up. And a lot of people have reached out to me for help on that. So we're going to have to figure something out with that. And then other issues, it's the same as before. We need to make county council work and the county executive process. The amount of bipartisan support I've had from that, has been huge. We've heard from everyone to get into that. So that's another one of the issues that I'm going to bring up.
You've had some things to say about how the recent county executive vacancy was filled. I think you were maybe partial to Mr. Anderton, Delegate Anderton being appointed to that position. What are your thoughts about that process, watching the county council work on that?
Well, it's funny to hear, anyone say that it was transparent. It's laughable. There was nothing transparent about that process. Myself and many others, looked at the candidates and, if something happens to my house, I'm going to hire a good contractor. I'm sure that, Mr. Desmarais is a fantastic heart doctor, but I'm not going to call him to work on my house. Right now, our county needs somebody that knows politics. And Carl Anderton is hands down the best choice. He's proven himself. He proved himself, during the meetings. I think it's beyond anyone why we didn't choose him, especially when we're going to need a strong advocate in the coming years. If what a lot of economists are predicting are going to happen in the next couple of years. So I'd like really strong leadership in that role right now.
One of the things that could happen in this special election, if you were to get elected, suddenly the majority switches on the county council, and there might be a chance to do something with county executive. Do you think that might come up again as an issue, or you think you're locked in with John Pasota as the acting county executive? Well,
John Pasota is very qualified, and I think he's been doing a great job for the county. But that doesn't follow the charter law. They didn't finish that process like they were supposed to, and I'm all for following the law. So I think that would come up. I don't think that it's a partisan issue. I definitely lean more towards the middle than some of the other council members. I think that's why I was such a good choice and why I've had so much support coming across the aisle for me. And we'll be presenting, a list of names and a lot of supporters that'll be coming out for my candidacy. But yeah, it's something that I would definitely address once I get the seat.
With our newspaper, Salisbury Independent, we've tried to focus a lot on the quality of life issues. People have their own opinions about what makes quality of life, whether it's less traffic or more environmental protection, more recreation. Where are you on some quality of life issues? What would you like to see done?
Yeah, I love what Wycomico was doing before COVID. Parks and Rec was really stepping it up. There were plenty of activities for all ages to jump into. The environment, if you're talking about quality of life, that's definitely something that, we need to keep on the forefront. But living here is something that, once you've done, it's hard to move away. I've been to other areas, and just your general, well-being from living here has always been fantastic, and it's why I've never moved.
I assume you have a website where people can go and find out more about you?
I do this year. It's Alex Scott, alexwscott.com. So you can see all of my positions. You'll be able to see a list of the Republicans supporting me. And then, of course, I always make myself available, whether you want to come in to my place of business and have a drink. Water is a drink.
The Brick Room downtown,
Yep. Yeah. It is. I'm there all the time. I've made my cell phone available to anyone that would like to call me or reach out to me. So, yeah.
He's Alex Scott. He's running for County Council, District 2, Wycomico County, Democrat, and we're thrilled he had time to be with us here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Greg. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Joining me now in the studio is Nicole Acle, who was appointed to the District 2 seat last year, and she's running for election in the special election. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Mr. Bassett, for having me.
So people who might not know you, because this is your first time really getting before the voters, who are you and why do you want to be on the County Council or continue to be on the County Council?
Well, I live in District 2. I've been a District 2 resident for almost 20 years now. My husband and I and my 3 children. I also own 2 small businesses that I run and manage on the day-to-day operations. I don't know if I mentioned if I had 3 children in the public school system, so that has been quite a handful. And I'm I like to be a community activist. I'm a member of the board of directors for Habitat for Humanity.
What a great organization
that is. It is. So that's where I come from.
Now, District 2 is the largest by geography of the 5 districts in the county. It's the western part of the county, Sharptown, Hebron, Mardella, out that way.
Whitehaven,
south to Whitehaven and Nanticoke, bivalve down there. And then it comes across the river and catches some neighborhoods south of Salisbury. What makes District 2 unique?
District 2 is a very diverse district in being an urban, and then we have a very rural area of District 2. The majority is very rural. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's just such a welcoming community, and the small towns have it's like their own little cities, their own little municipalities. They were very welcoming to me when I came. We have beautiful historic districts, not only in Whitehaven, but in Quantico.
Why do you want to be a council member? What's the role of the county council? I mean, there's been some tension in the county government, in the county executive form of government that we switched to however many years ago it was now, 14. What is it? It's 8 and 4, 12 years ago now. What do you see the role of the council? It feels like the council, to me at least, that they're still trying to find their way in this form of government. So how do you see the council's role in the government?
I don't see the council's role in the day-to-day operations of the county. That's what the county executive is for, and he would have that oversight on the department heads. What I see the county council as more of a legislator and to preserve fiscal accountability to tax dollars. And that's what I think we have really tried to do in looking over all of the enterprise that we have within the county, the public school system, the library, the Parks and Recs department. So that's where I see us at.
When you first came on the council, were you able to interact with the county executive, or did he sort of stand off, or did you feel like there was some communication that could happen and kind of inspired you to how things should be?
Yes, with the late executive, I did not have any conflict. That was prior to me coming on the council.
Right.
So I don't even really want to speak to what the issues that they had. I'm not really sure what the problems were. Mr. Culver and I were friends prior to me getting on the council, and we worked well together at the time.
What are some of the big issues you'd like to work on? Like maybe the top 2 or 3 issues that, as a county council member, elected county council member, that you really want to go out there and tackle?
Fiscal accountability. I think we definitely, I see some areas that we need to delve into that a little bit more on the council, and keeping in mind that we are the representative of the citizens. We are voted in by citizens, and we need to be good stewards of that money. Also, public safety is one of my top priorities, making sure that we have the facilities to keep our citizens safe, and a quality, safe education, I think, is also very important.
I know you've been an advocate for the new Mardella School. You want to talk about that?
Yes. So unfortunately, it was not in the CIP that was originally created. And I worked with the superintendent and some of the local residents in how we would approach this with the county executive. We worked collaboratively together, and we were able to get it back on the CIP and in the budget. So it has already earmarked allotments of funds for that school.
One of the things, I use this line all the time, but I'm sort of paid to watch people. And when I watch you on the council, when the school board comes up, education issues, or the school board leaders, administrators, Dr. Hanlon is there, you really perk up. You seem to have a great interest in education.
I do. Like I said, I have 3 children in the public school system. I am also on McGate, which is an advocacy group for gifted and talented students, and Parents Place of Maryland, which is for students with special education and special health care needs. And so to ensure that every student in our county is getting an equitable education is important to me. And just from seeing my own children and their friends, it's something important, and I like seeing it. That's what's going to lead to economic growth. That is what's going to keep families here, and that's what's going to bring people back to the Eastern Shore.
Right. A lot of people will say that the school board does its own thing, and really the county's just supposed to give money to the school board and let them do that stuff. But you see council members all the time who want to get involved in education issues. How does that work? How do you communicate with the school board and let them do their thing while also being a county council member?
Well, I think it's just having open communication. And since I have been on the council, I'm not sure when this started, if it was prior to me, but we do meet with the school board once every 3 months, which I think is very helpful. Get a briefing, get an update. So when it comes budget time and we know what they need, we're already kind of in a mindset of what's going to happen.
Most recently, one of the big issues in District 2 was the flooding issue, and we've kind of forgotten about it. It seems like.
Oh, I haven't.
Yeah,
I have not.
And there was a plan underway, so they were concentrating on it for a while, and now I don't hear about it as much. So I think maybe it's still going on, but I don't know. But any thoughts about flooding? Because District 2 is the area that seems to be affected most by these torrential rains that cause trouble.
Mm-hmm. Well, when I first got on the council, I looked to my municipalities that already had water and septic, and Sharptown is a great example of how that municipality has run successfully to maintain water and septic, but yet they haven't raised taxes, which is pretty amazing. And right now I'm working with the town of Whitehaven, and we have a town hall meeting at the end of the month with MDE on how we're going to remedy the multiple failing septic systems in that community, because there's really not any more permeable surface left. We have to do something. We have to have an off-site disposal. We need to come up with a master plan of what we're going to do with Whitehaven, or it's not going to be livable in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I worry about Whitehaven because it's been more prone to flooding in recent years. And you're right. I actually looked at a house out there, and it was touch or go whether that septic system was going to pass inspection. And the property size was not large enough to really put the kind of system in that you needed. So I think it's going to be a difficult issue down there. I
do, but I think that we've worked pretty well with MDE to come up with a master plan specifically for that community and how it's going to work. I was able to get a few citizens that needed new septic, part of the Chesapeake Bay Fund, and so it was partially funded for their new septic or well program. But looking at a long-term plan, that's really not sustainable. So I'd like to have something that is a long-term plan that in 5-10 years, when we have the BAT systems failing,
Right.
there is something else that we can do.
Right. County Executive Culver died on July 26, and that started a process with the County Council to choose a successor to him. You were kind of involved in that. There was a lot of back and forth. How did that play out? Anything you want to say about that process?
We followed the legislative process that was given to us, and we finally came to an agreement on who we were going to allow to hold that seat until the election and the people are able to vote.
I know you were a proponent of Dr. Desmarais, who ultimately withdrew. Any thoughts about that?
Well, and this is just what I said that night of, is that right now we're in the midst of a global pandemic, and we need someone to get us out of that,
Right.
to have a recovery plan. And Dr. Desmarais had a very good recovery plan of how that was going to work. And that is with many facets of the county government. That's not just with one particular avenue or being able to get grant funding. This was a big overall picture.
And sitting here, I realized as a reporter, I should have questioned you on this because I didn't know, and I kind of apologize in advance. But you ended up voting against Mr. Posota, John Posota, being the acting county executive. Did you feel like they should have put forward another nominee, or what was your thought when you voted against him?
My thought was more of the process of voting, not voting against Mr. Posota,
Sure.
but voting against the process that we were following, because we have a charter that's very clear how, I'm all about process. This
Right.
is how we do it. And I think if citizens are not happy with the process, they need to change the process. I don't look at an office as a person, I look at it as an office and what that needs to achieve.
Do you think that ordeal kind of bonded the county council in a way, or has it unbonded you guys, or made it more divisive?
I think it has been a learning experience for all of us. I think we all learned quite a bit from that experience and going through it. And sometimes you need to go through hard things to bring you to a better place. And yes, I do. I think that we're a better council for it.
And I was talking to somebody who'd been on the Charter Review Commission that implemented the county executive form of government, and I said, when you all were framing this, what did you think would happen if there was ever an opening? And the reply was, well, first of all, we never imagined there would be an opening, because
Yeah.
you don't want to consider the worst thing like that. But we just assumed that the council would go into a room together, and they'd look at each other and they'd say, all right, which one of us wants to be county executive? And that's how it would be selected. That would be the process. And I kind of thought that's what was going to happen, but really that didn't happen. We ended up just looking at people who were external to the county council.
Yes, Mr. Holloway had initially put his name forward until we then got further down the line, and how that was going. He was unable to vote for himself. It would be unfair. He had access to the questions, so it was just really got into the nitty gritty of it. So he was not able to. He withdrew his name.
Right. I know I'm in the weeds on a process
That's
thing.
okay.
So one of the things we do with Salisbury Independent is we try to reflect quality of life issues and talk about what can make our county better. So what do you see as some of the quality of life priorities that we need to focus on, or that you're proud of? People seem to laud our Parks and Rec department, things like that. So what other quality of life issues would you like to promote?
Well, I think we have a lot of great educational opportunities in this area. We have Warwick Community College, we have SU, we have UMES. We have access to great health care. PRMC is Tidal Health.
Tidal Health, yes, everyone does that, yeah.
Is a tertiary care center with a trauma unit and a life flight access. So those are things that are really important. And when you're recruiting new businesses to come in, those are the things that they look at. They look at education. What's the education opportunities here? Are they quality education? What are the healthcare as I age, or if I have children? Are there people who are going to be able to care for me in those times? So that is something that I can sit. That I'm so proud of our county that they can tote that.
I assume you have a website if people want to look you up and find out more about you?
I do.
And what is it? We'll put it on the screen, but what is it?
It's www.nicoleackley.com.
Okay, and you have a Facebook page too?
I do. I have a Facebook page. I'm a little new to the Facebook things. My kids are getting me caught up on how social media works. Because that's one of the perks of having children, is they can do that. And it's Nicole Acle for County Council.
She's Nicole Acle. She's running for District 2 County Council. She's on the council, special election to be voted on. She's a Republican. I guess early voting starts on Sunday, the 26th or 27th, whatever that is. And election day is November 3rd. Thanks for being here today. We really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Bassett.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and 1-on-1. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.